Well, thank you for the partners and sponsors. So the session now is about defining an AI strategy, and this can be applied both for you or for your customers, right? And the way I'm thinking about it is not just, oh, I'm going to preach it how you need to do your own strategy. I know some of you already have a super good idea where you're going to go. I know some of you don't have that much good idea where you're going to go, but I know for sure a lot of your customers don't know really want to go. So that's the intention. I'm going to build a lot on top of what Mitra just said. So a lot of the things that is going to resonate is going to be super aligned with what just Mitra was saying, but just moving forward to the next topic. So this is a super in-depth. So you saw on Mitra's slide, you have these two numbers here of the number of companies that will embrace AI and the number of companies embracing AI, but you didn't have the opportunity to look at the details, right? What does exactly why organizations are struggling to adopt AI. And when you look at the reasons, right, is a lot of, we'll call it fear of unknown, a lot of where do you start, also what is the vendor strategy, great opportunity for you and for us, right? And also things like maturity, culture, etc. So that's the reality. So a lot of people saying, okay, I'm concerned about security, risk, understanding what AI is, what is the strategy, how do you start? So this is the reality, right? And it's a reality that not everybody confess, right? But it's true, right? We have done also some research about, okay, let's take a look at the differences between those who have already adopted AI and broadly adopted AI and the ones that haven't not adopted AI and see what the differences are, right? And the differences are mainly across these three things: understanding, assuming, having that strategy around AI, acceptance, which has to do a lot with the culture, people not being fear, not having fear about AI, and also, very interestingly, is this part of responsibility comes always together, right? More and more, I see the customers that really, a good sign of a customer really mature on AI is that they have a governance, or they have some responsibility, or they have some kind of ethics committee or something around that because they have understood the implications of AI. Mitra was talking about the AI Business School. We do have, so I'm going to summarize a lot of, in this session, a lot of what we have on the first module on strategy. But as Mitra was saying, we have a significant amount of content and super great case studies on the others. But the reason I want to start here is because we had 55,000 users in the first month, right? And 52% of the time they were consuming strategy content. So this is the reality, okay? Something also super interesting is 31% were consuming technology, okay? Only 9 and 8% were focused on culture and responsibility. So it's just a super interesting numbers for many, many reasons. Because when you talk to the customers, or at least when I want to talk to the customers, everybody tell me, no, I really know my strategy, I really know, understand the technology, I'm focused on the culture, responsibility. That's everybody says that. But then when they get online, they go to the other side. So people, they don't really understand yet the potential, and they don't really have a comprehensive strategy and in their organizations, right? That's the reality, right? And actually, if I talk to some of you, I'm sure it's going to be similar. And in fact, when I talk to some of the more mature organizations, and if I think about the pattern that Mitra was talking about, bringing AI to your applications, people get it. Bringing AI to business processes, then you start thinking like, oh, well, depend which processes. Yeah, I see that on my predictive maintenance. Yeah, no issues. But I don't see that much on my finance department or in my. But then when you think about it, it's empowering every employee. A lot of people don't really have a clear understanding of how they're going to do that. Right? So I would say it's not binary. It's not I don't have a strategy, I don't have any strategy. But when you think about it, it's a comprehensive view. Actually, the reality is more like this. And there's a lot of examples that I can tell you about people doing things are here and there. A proof of concept here, a proof of concept there. I'm going to do a project. I'm going to try to do something coming from the IT department, but not really thinking, okay, what is this around us, okay? So what I'm going to try to do is a little bit is giving you some tips. It's not like and a summary. So we have, as I said, we have partnered with INSEAD to put some specific content. We have interview people. So my idea right now is 2-3 slides to tell you what I think are my learnings on what it takes to build an AI strategy, and a lot of examples. So I'm going to point you a lot of case studies of how some companies are thinking more strategically about AI, which I think is the most interesting thing from my perspective. Okay. So this is a slide that is a summary of a lot of research, discussions, etc. So from my perspective, there's 2 key dimensions when thinking about AI strategy, which are maturity and value. Why I think this? Because it's super important that all the time, I'm going to come back to value all the time, in a minute, is AI as value driver is important, but you won't get all the value immediately. It's not that easy. And maturity is also a key dimension, is not everything that you would like to do, you can do it, right? And so the key thing for me, and just putting all these puzzles of the puzzle together, is selecting the right use case. This is a lot of the time starting with the wrong use case, leads to failure, leads to disappointment, leads to I don't trust AI, this is not ready. So this is super important to start thinking about which is the right use case. I'm going to discuss a little more how we select that use case in a minute, right? The 2 components, I think from my perspective, that also comes together with the right use case are data and abilities, right? So if you don't have the right data, probably even it might be the super great use case for you, but probably you're not going to be able to execute. And if you don't have the right abilities, also you're not going to be able to execute. Either you or your customers, right? I mean, I think, as I said, this is, for those of you who feel you know where you're going, good. This is a conversation you have with your customers. But for those of you that you don't know where to go, this is the conversation for you, okay? So think about this always, right? So do I have the right skills, the right ability? When you start selecting the right use case, building that data and building that ability. For example, I see some companies that are very strategic in the way they're thinking about AI, and they're saying, okay, we're going to start acquiring data, and we're going to start doing data differently. And for example, if you go on the online content, you can see about a retailer that was a purely online retailer that they decided we need more data. And the only way we can have that data is just interacting directly with customers, so we're going to open stores. And part of the strategy of open physical stores was to gather that kind of data that they didn't have, right? Then is when we start moving more into these business processes and selecting which are the right business processes. But that I would think is a come a bit later. And that creates 2 things, or I think it's 2 things that as you grow on value and you grow on maturity, the next 2 things is how you build this trust and how you build this culture, right? And there's lots that we have also researched and a lot of things that I have been looking at, and these are super important, right? So, and this comes together with a lot of the change management traditional tools. So you think about it as how you communicate, how you create awareness, how you, it's super important when you do an AI project, is this what's in it for me. This what's in it for me is the key of a lot of AI projects. For example, on our own customer support center, when we were going to deploy an AI tool to help the agents, we got a lot of pushback from the same agents. They were feeling that they're going to be replaced. And actually, it was the other way around. So the tool was about to help them. But initially, even in Microsoft, we're talking about a company which is all about innovation, but our own employees were fearing that this is going to replace me, right? So building this trust and creating this culture, and this is another topic in another session, is what it helps you going to every employee and to start creating new products and new services, and that's how you grow that. So this is a bit of how things, I think, how this thing that Mitra was talking about, starting from application to business processes to every employee, I think from my perspective works, but I think it's super important to understand where are you in your maturity, or your department, or your customers, or whatever. And not every customer is in the same level of maturity in every department. You have some departments that are more innovative than others, that can share more data than others, that are more ready than others. So that's the reality. And then it's also important in this thing on how to drive immediate value. So when building the AI Business School, we partnered with INSEAD Business School. And we work a lot with Professor Zemsky, which is the Dean of Innovation and Deputy Dean of the whole school. We took a lot of time to say, okay, because at the beginning he was saying, there is no AI strategy. There's business strategy, there are business problems, and we apply AI to business problems. But when we're thinking about it, yes, but if you don't think about AI strategically in your company, you might be losing opportunities, because thinking about what AI can do. So we have a lot of debate on okay, how we create or how we do a strategy around AI, right? And basically at the end of the day, he came with, okay, let's use these two simple tools and two simple things to decide what is this right use case. Right? And then we can apply this for every single use case, but then we can use this other more broader framework to think about more strategically on the organization. So, and you have a lot of, he's explaining, I think, quite nicely on the content online, but let me try to explain the basics on what he's saying. One of the first things he said is about is, okay, at the end of the day, it's all about extracting value. This is what we need to do. And at the end of the day is what the customers are willing to pay. So at the end of the day, that's what we need to do. If AI doesn't help us, our customers are willing to pay more, but probably not the right use case. But it's a basic way to start. But also we need to be super conscious about also the cost, right? So there's things that will drive cost up and drive cost down, and things that will drive value creation and willing to pay up and down, right? And then there's how much value of this you can extract. Right? This is the value of it, but it's not necessarily, because maybe on your market, everybody's doing the same thing, right? And this is super important when, for example, and we were analyzing a lot of case studies, and one of the most traditional workloads for AI and the more mature workloads is predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance, no-brainer, everybody gets it, AI, but in some cases, the cost of doing predictive maintenance could be huge. So you might not get the value. So you need to look at this from that perspective, to think about, okay, what if I need to renovate all my infrastructure in order to start doing predictive maintenance, maybe at the end of the day, the value that I can extract is not that much. So that's how we need to try to quantify super clearly, okay, what is the cost that is going to take me building this AI system, and maintaining it, because AI systems have this thing that is not like traditional systems that you do it once. Actually, you keep maintaining the model, they keep learning. So that you need to be looking into that. But that's basic thing. It's not like super thing, but I think clarifies when saying, okay, let's make sure we have this thing. But then we come in a more broader perspective and say, okay, first take a look at your environment. And take a look at your environment. We also did a lot of work and say, okay, this, for example, if you are in the business of on-demand videos on internet, providing personalization, custom recommendations, it is a given. So if you don't do that, you're just out of the business. So it's not like you say, oh, AI is going to bring me a lot of value. No, it's actually, that is not going to change what customers are willing to pay, or that's not going to change what you're going to extract. So looking at your industry environment. However, if you are in a manufacturing environment and you are able to customize and personalize what you are taking out of the production line, that is a big differentiation on your industry environment. Okay, so that's this. I know, and I'm going to show you some examples in a minute of where are the topics and I see what are on by industry. But I think it's important to see what are the, and you have regulatory things. You have, it's not the same on another example why this is so key. Healthcare. The first thing that everybody thinks about AI and healthcare is a predictive model that tell me if I have skin cancer or it's just my skin is a bit dark. Awesome, right? But then the people that need to run that model are doctors, and doctors don't want to do that. So that is your industry environment, and you need to be very conscious that it might be super valuable, but it might not work. It might not work because you need to have someone that is going to be actually executing that. So that's all this effort to say, okay, when selecting the right use case, it's super important to see what is this going to drive differentiation, and is this going to work? And then it's a bit on your organization and execution. And the first and top and the most important thing we saw there is data, again, right? But it's data. So is this, if you don't have the right data, or you don't have the right organization that's going to able to extract the data, that is not going to work. So you need to select it, and that you need to have that into account, right? It's like there's a lot of great ideas, lots of great projects. You're going to try to put, you know your customers, you know this is going to work for them, you know you're going to extract a lot of value, but this project might fail because of this, right? It's a simple framework. I know for some of you will feel like, oh, so much business school in order to do that. Okay, might be your first reaction. When I went through all this process, it is clear, it is simple, and it's applicable. So when you think about it and you think about, is this a good idea, is not a good idea, you can very simple, without losing a lot of time, take all these things into consideration and look at that. On the online course, we have some great examples, and we have some great case studies in which Peter is applying this framework. So you can take a look at and how he's thinking about this in more detail. That I think is a good idea. The other dimension we have been considering is about okay, because the other thing that we see in most of the cases is that AI is coming from incubation. Right? So this is companies that are starting and say, okay, I create this department, or I put this factory, or I do these things, or I do this pilot, right? So one of the challenges that we see is how we move to revenue streams and cost centers. So how we go all this way around and do that, right? And we've done also a lot of research, and I've been a lot of thinking about this thing. This, I mean, you're going to laugh because I think at the end of the day, the answer is always quite obvious, but is going to the IT departments, going to the technical functions is going to go you through the process of just going to incubation. You need to go on and talking to the line of business people and start to have a different conversations in order to move to other workloads, okay? In our case, going back to what Mitra was saying, we think that when this conversation that Mitra was talking about, bringing AI to every application, this is a great conversation to have to the technical departments. So that's not the conversation you will have with the CFO. Okay, oh, Mr. CFO, you have applications, let's modernize your applications. Feel like, not like the right conversation to have, right? So just trying to say, okay, well, how we evolve from what Mitra was saying to be more practical, right? This idea of changing every business process, I think there's a kind of good alignment with the revenue streams. It's okay, how you can increase your revenue, how you can create more value, how you can sell more. Those kind of things match really well with that, right? And in a way, in many cases, there's some parallelism with every employee with the cost center. So when you talk about, we can see, for example, finance or HR as a cost center in a way, there is a lot of connections. So the conversation with a CHRO It won't be let's modernize your applications. It will be okay. We can take out your processes, but I think it could be much more fruitful. You think about is how we empower your people in your department, how we make them smarter, how they make them faster, how they make them more productive. Because at the end of the day, they're cost centers. So making them more productive, it is something that automatically will think. So that may help you maybe thinking about, okay, what is the kind of conversation or the kind of strategy that I need to think about it? So from that perspective, you feel like, oh, the technical functions can play a super strong role on modernizing and making and bringing this AI to the existing applications and new applications. All this conversation about business processes that will provide us the opportunity to sell more and to come with new products and new services, and then the other one with every employee. So that's a bit of all the theory. Okay, my intention is going to some specific examples. Okay, this is a great example of what we're talking about: applications, modernizing applications, and partnering with the technical function. So Telefonica case study, and you can learn more on the website. Was all about we need to transform the company. It's very strategic, the case. And if you listen to the customer, he really has a clear vision of where they're heading to. That's why we picked this one. But this is a vision that is coming from the technical part of the company. And it's a vision which is very interesting because it's about, okay, let's leverage all the data that we have in order to have a very different customer engagement opportunity. And now we think about more, instead of a telco company, more as a data company, and how we can use that data and these things to provide new services, right? And in a way, Aura, the conversational agent, is a modern application. It's modernizing the way they have the systems and the way they were engaging with their customers. So it's a good way to think about, okay, it's a pure AI strategy. It's a good AI strategy coming from the part of the technical departments and the applications. When we look at manufacturing, lots of opportunity on manufacturing. Obviously, as I was saying, predictive maintenance, one of the low-hanging fruits. Safety, automation, super trending topics. The great opportunities as well where AI can provide a lot of value. And everything that has to do with not IoT, but even secure IoT. So one of which is with more. So these are the key trending topics. The strategic case I want to highlight, the one we have on AI Business School. So these are the cases that we have documented in detail, and you actually can download on PDF with a lot of detail on understanding better how this works. This is an interesting case, right? And this is a company that they manufacture a lot of things. They manufacture, for example, integrated circuits, for example. They do a lot of things. So they also have a very clear understanding of what is their strategy. They want to do two things. They want to first be recognized as the most technologically advanced manufacturers. Okay, it's a clear view, and and from that perspective, AI plays a significant role in their strategy. But second thing is they anticipate that the way manufacturing is going to evolve in the future is changing significantly, because instead of just doing very large batches of similar products, they're going to do very individualized and different pieces for each of the customers, right? And they're thinking, okay, let's extract more value from all the chain, from design process, because as they're going to have a new customized product, to the end of delivery and how we service the product. So it's a very interesting case on how they think about AI plays a significant role on their strategy in order to help on those stages. One of the solutions and the way they have started is super cool, because when they print the integrated circuits, they can do it in less than 1 second. But the quality control is traditionally has been very human-centered, and it takes way over a minute to, to do that. So using AI in order to automate the process, it has really helped significantly, right? And it's also very interesting because you feel like, oh, this fear of replacement of the people, you can really listen on how they're thinking about focusing people on more value-added tasks and not just purely on repetitive and not very motivating tasks. Another important industry, retail, right? Retail, we see obviously everything about personalized experiences. That is all about our customers. That everybody's talking about personalized experience, and we think it's more unified shopping journey or unified and understanding of the customer as a whole. This is I would say the way I would summarize the trend I'm seeing with AI. So a lot of customers are coming to AI to think about how we can have one single conversation with the customer, not a conversation we have on the store, different than the conversation that I have on the website or different than the conversation I have on the app, and different view of the customers that I have, right? And that's not consistent. So helping on and that helps with the product discovery and also inventory and pricing and customized pricing. Those are the trends that I see, right? We actually, the case that we are highlighting in online is our own Microsoft Store story. There's a lot of things that we're doing with AI and more that we're going to do. It's interesting because when we were interviewing them, they really have a very clear view of where they're going to go, but they feel that they are way behind. So they were really hesitant of wanting to share the story because they were feeling like, well, we're not that good, which is a good sign from my perspective. Feel like they don't feel satisfied with the way that these things do. But the case what we're talking about is so one of the key challenges that the retailers has is understanding the customer perception and reactions and their feedback and being able to react on time and quick and fast with customer feedback. And they have implemented a very interesting process that goes across all Microsoft Store properties, online and physical, to gather all the customer information super fast. And with that customer information and feedback, they are redefining products, refining services, and also they are sending messages to the supply chain and inventory management. So you say, okay, this product is trending, this thing is going up, the people are liking this thing. So they're making decisions based on this. Financial services, there's lots of here, everything that has to do with cybersecurity, money laundering detection. This is top on financial services customers all the time. Everything that has to do also with customer engagement, understanding what is the next best action, how we can anticipate what the customer wants. This is also a super clear trend. So these are automation. So these are the most clear trends that I see. And when we think about thinking about AI strategically, these are some of the best examples. We have been my colleague here, Sarah, and I've been engaged with a lot of financial services companies, and they are very mature. They're doing a lot on AI. We have not really come with something that we say, wow, super strategic end-to-end, okay? That doesn't mean it's interesting. If we feel like while in other industries you see companies that are not mature at all and some that are very, very mature, I feel like financial services, they kind of all have a lot of experience with risk analytics, with credit, so with a lot of modeling. They have a lot of those things, but at the same time, they really struggling to say, okay, this is how AI is going to really change or reshape the way to do things. Some startups and fintechs, they do have some good ideas, but also they are quite, from my perspective, a bit narrow. The case that we're highlighting, I think, is super interesting because of the way they're thinking about AI in a different way. And I think when this happens with all technologies, again and again that at the beginning, people use the technology to do the same things that they doing before in a better way. But then they start using technology for doing things that they were not doing before, right? And that is, not, and that's what everybody would love to know, right? If I wish I knew how people are going to be using AI, because then I will become myself a venture capitalist and invest on the right companies in advance. We don't know, but in a way, this is out of the box thinking, and that's why we picked this case. So basically, these guys, what they say is, one of the challenges that financial services companies have is making sure that you're talking to the same customer, that does the customer authentication, and then we have, you need to buy something on internet, and then you need a coordinate, and then you need to go into your cell phone, you need to type a code, you need to do, I don't know, all these things, right? And these guys, they say, can we use AI to do these things on the background? And it's super impressive. So basically, they're able to monitor a lot of parameters. For example, how you use the mouse, how you click, how you type, how you behave on the phone or on the computer, and they're able to identify people not only to say, okay, this is me that I'm actually requesting this transaction, is that they are able to identify if it is me under pressure. So if someone is pointing a gun at me, they're gonna know that this is Jaime that is actually dying, but is under pressure. So it's very interesting and how they're thinking about using AI from a different perspective. Healthcare. There's another of the bigger, and soon, as Mitra was saying, we will come with also public sector and government, but that's the four largest industries so far, and then government. There's lots of things here. If you see some of the cases that you have, this only 25% of the screen is what a lot of people are thinking about AI on health. But I think the biggest opportunities right now are on the other side. And traditionally, Microsoft partners are super good at that. I know here you have Dynamics partners, you have CRM partners, you have people that have data partners. The sweet spot right now is on how healthcare is organized, so optimizing time of patients in the hospitals, understanding the length that there's going to be, understanding what the things that the doctors are going to need, or the nurses. And so it's not just a pure, the diagnosis is super fancy, but believe me, there's much more opportunity around more the traditional workloads and optimizing and help them administer their resources more efficiently at this point. So that's I think what I see, right? This is a great example of, and this is actually this is a partner story. This is 100% delivered by a partner. And this is all about helping. It's taking a specific workload and trying to create all the modeling and the predictive tools to have with one particular condition, and with all the from the prevention to the diagnostics to the care, which is a good story. Mitra talked about introducing the citizen data scientist. Okay, I'm not going to repeat what she says. I'm going to tell you the strategic example. Have you heard about Publicis before? Because it's not super new. It's been actually for almost a year now. Just to put it in context, I think still, even though it's a year old, I think it's extremely innovative. Publicis is a very large advertisement company. They have grown by acquisition, and they have around 80,000 customers worldwide, distributed all over the planet. And they do multiple things for their customers. For example, they can create a campaign or a digital campaign, or can do a video for a customer, right? And the challenge that they have is well, multiple channels, and you can go online and really understand. I mean, it's now with all the online giants like Facebook or Google or Microsoft that are eating a lot of the pie in advertisement, and a lot of the investments going to those players, and how they can optimize and the way they do things, right? And so that is the strategic thing, and they figure, is AI able to help us on this, right? And basically what they said is, what is our biggest pain point? Our biggest pain point is the following: if I want to do a campaign for let's say Coors in Australia, and I want to do a video that has children on the seaside, right? Have we ever done a similar campaign, I don't know, anywhere else in the world? Because if we have done that, it would be great to see if there's assets that we can leverage, learners that we can leverage, understand what worked, what didn't work. So that, right now, the only way to do that is taking the phone. Hey, have you done something like that in the Netherlands? Have you done something for Heineken? Have you done, oh yeah, I saw you do something with San Miguel, right? Whatever. But there is no, even if they look at their structured data, they might say, yes, we have 20 beer companies as customers, but we don't know what we have done with it. Oh yeah, we're super good. Getting to understand who did what and what was it and what was the outcome was a very, very challenging thing. And basically what they use in AI is to say, okay, they are indexing all the unstructured content. I remember some of the things I was saying yesterday about knowledge mining. So you can understand what is in the video. So you can actually now, they can have a chatbot that they can ask a question and say, find me videos that have children on it, that have been done for beer companies, that have been successful on Facebook. And they get the result on the chatbot and tell me who did this, who participated on the video. And automatically you get connected and you can talk to that. That's how they think about AI, as the way they're going to solve some of their largest problems and biggest problems. Okay. So, just going back to what I said, right? Hopefully now things makes a bit more sense and to say, okay, so when you're self-defining your own strategy, or you're helping your customers defining their own strategy, I think you can have some meaningful conversations thinking about, okay, helping them understanding this right value according to their maturity, according to what the data they have and their skills, and think about is how you're going to get into getting this trust, this new culture, moving into the revenue streams, and moving and getting into the cost centers by delivering new products and new services. Hopefully this was useful. Sarah, and we're super interested in getting feedback, because this is, we targeted this for you. So we targeted this because we wanted you to have clarity on the topic. So if you feel like this is not useful, or this feels like this is something that, well, we need to know, because we want to be, we want to create these things for you, so we need to make sure that you are successful out there. Okay, so I think now we have questions. And then I have sponsors.
We have time for questions, right? So any questions for Jaime or on the content, or any volunteers? Oh, there we go.
I'm very interested to how you measure success. My name is Abel Smit.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in what your success criteria are for AI.
Yeah, great question. So spot on question. We actually working on the next thing that the first thing that we want to do is creating a module on ROI, how we measure ROI, because it's slightly different how we do this, right? We can anticipate, and I can follow up with you on some of our early thinking on the direction we're heading. We don't think the traditional way to measure ROI is necessarily the best way to measure ROI on AI. One thing, though, that is super clear on the reasons why a lot of AI projects fail is because there is no clear way, there's no clear parameter of success decided in advance. Let me explain you. For example, this company that they're participate on the electric market, and the electric market is super confusing because they can change depending on if it's raining, there is more energy coming from water generation that is coming. If not, it's nuclear. If not, it's solar. If it's sunny, so it's very confusing the way they do these things. So basically, the customer was saying, our ability to predict how the market is going to go up and down is 55%. So we better throw a coin. So they came to us and say, for us, success means going from 55% to 67%. Okay, that for me is the right way to think about an AI project. So beforehand, to establish what we're going to measure or how we're going to be measured on that particular area, right? This is. Again, this is tricky, so we're working on that. So it's a very good question. This is easier with machine learning models, with some kind of AI. When we look at, for example, on customer service chatbots, conversational AI, this is different because you need to look at different parameters. On our customer center, for example, one of the key things that we wanted to accomplish, so I think it's super important to understand what we want to accomplish. In our case, was not so he was redirecting questions to the bot instead of redirecting people to the agent. One of the things that for us is more costly is the transfer from agent to agent. Okay? That's what's really costly for us because it's like duplicating or the time, the effort, actually customer satisfaction drops. So basically, we put all the effort to measure how we were, is the AI reducing the transfer to the agents or not? So having that question, that the thing that you're going to measure, that helps, right? I know there are people measuring in dollars per issue reported, which will be more the traditional, but I'm not that sure that will apply.
So the answer is it depends.
Yeah.
Well, the following question is, how does Microsoft measure success?
So we have in the culture.
Sorry, just let me repeat.
Yeah, super fast. In the culture module, we have different cases with different things.
Microsoft.
Yeah. How Measure is measuring success? And I said it depends completely. And we have 4 cases, more than 4 cases, but I have 4 departments on the AI Business School. For example, on marketing, we were looking at how effectively we were converting leads into opportunities, which is a very different thing that on finance, that they were measuring how accurate the forecasting is. So it depends a little bit, but that's what I'm saying. It's super interesting to see, okay, what is in finance, the pain point was the amount of hours that the people on finance were dedicating to the forecasting. So that's what we want to measure is how we impact in that. In the case of marketing, the pain point was the sellers are complaining that the leads that we're generating in marketing are useless. So the thing that we wanted to measure is how we turn out leads into opportunities. So, yes, an example.
Next question, please share your name and your company.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I am from Aura Portal. We are a Microsoft ISV. I think the information is really useful. It's great insight. Mainly the keywords per industry and how to approach the accounts. Would you have an idea on the countries that are more mature in AI? And also if you could give us some advice on the roles that we should approach for this within their companies. Thank you.
Good question. There is some important research around that. There are things that are coming government-driven or private initiatives or et cetera. So there's super quick things. So France, for example, is super strong on training. They really have a really strong idea on how we're going to train people, how we're going to skill people, and they put in a lot of efforts around that. That is, for example, in the Middle East, they have the Emirates that are creating the Ministry of AI, and they also want to think about broadly on how they're going to have a lot of people trained. However, in China, for example, they do have a lot of investment on research, so clearly super strong on research. Canada very interesting because they're thinking about more on the startup way. So they are creating a hub in Toronto, and they're thinking about how we're going to create this ecosystem of companies. That's a bit also the case of Israel. Israel is betting a lot on the entrepreneurial community and building around that area. So the U.S. is super broad. So the U.S. is always, you have all the extremes, right? It's not the same going to one space or the other, right? I think in a nutshell. So and guidance, I think we're still early on the game, but I think is so. And my reflection, and that's one of the things that the reason why we're here is I think that all of you, in any sense, should have an AI practice, whether it is embedded into your solution, and the thing is how your solution becomes smarter, right? Or even if you are ERP, CRM, you think about is how you're going to be thinking about AI solutions, models on top of your traditional applications. If you are a SQL, is going from just purely data analytics to moving to the next layer. So I think all of you need to think about, I'm doing cloud, I'm doing is how you think about AI more broadly.
In the Ernst & Young report, there's a lot of detail on maturity per country, right? So I urge you to download that. You're standing in between coffee and a question. So if it's a short question, we'll take it. I mean, it will need a short answer. So
okay, short answer, promise.
No, you both can't ask questions. We'll give.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to ask a question, and then we go. So one more thing. So after this, we'll have coffee break until 11:30. At 11:30, we will do the raffle or sweepstake. If you're not in the room, you won't be able to win anything.
One more question for all areas of information technologies. Sorry, my name is Plamen Matev. I'm from KTRND Center, Bulgaria. In all area of information technologies, we have one king-like instrument before to start to talk to ultimate user. Return of investment. Do you have some example of using return of investment before to start this whole explanation?
Yeah, so let's do the following. Short answer. We will follow with the whole, Michiel, let's follow with the whole community on this particular topic. Okay, promise we'll send you some data and some points and directions on this.
And we'll follow up through the tool, right? So you already have yesterday's presentations in your inbox, or at least with in the email with which you registered for the event. So a big round of applause for Jaime, please.
Thanks.
Okay, coffee break until 11:30.